We are recording.
Thank you, Josh. Good afternoon, everyone. It is so great to see our working group together again. Today is Wednesday, November 5th, and this is our second working group meeting. I really do appreciate the time and commitment each of you continues to bring to this collaborative work. Just as a reminder, the state of Tennessee doesn't currently permit the use of generative AI tools, so we will not be using them today. You take a quick look at our agenda. We're going to start again with some introductions, and then we'll briefly review the strategies for improving outcomes that we talked about last time, including expanding professional development opportunities and creating EL endorsements for licensed educators. And then we'll get into the meat of the meeting, talking about strategies for improving outcomes for English learners and assisting English learner teachers in scaffolding, collaborative learning, explicit vocabulary instruction, and using assessment and student data. We'll also have the opportunity to talk about family involvement. And then we'll talk very briefly about what our next steps are after these meetings. So again, I'd really like to welcome you. My name is Raven Cleveland. I'm the statewide manager of English learners. I work under in the Office of Academics, led by Dr. Christy Brown, in the Division of Special Education and Student Supports, led by Dr. Jennifer Jordan. The legislation PC 419 requires that this working group consist of a variety of stakeholder groups. So we want to take a moment to introduce, to let you introduce yourself. We'd like you to tell us your name, your role, and what group of stakeholders you currently represent. And we'll start with directors of EL programs in K-12 public schools, Dr. Fuller.
Hi, I'm Ted Fuller. I'm the Federal Program Supervisor, including ELs in Germantown Municipal School District.
Mr. Winery.
Good afternoon. I'm Joseph Winery, ESL Program Supervisor in Williamson County Schools.
Ms. Brown.
I'm Alice Brown. I'm the ESL coordinator in Putnam County.
Mr. Bowyer.
I'm John Booyer, and I'm the EL program coordinator with the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission.
Ms. Duncan.
I'm Christy Duncan. I'm the ESL supervisor for Cleveland City Schools.
Mr. Day.
I'm Jared Day, Federal Programs Director for Bristol City Schools.
Thank you. And Ms. Ford.
Hi, I'm Letitia Ford with Jackson County Schools. I'm their ESL director.
Thank you. We also have members of our State Board of Education. So Ms. McInturf.
My name's Chrissy McInturf, and I'm the District 1 member for the State Board of Education. I represent teachers and family members and stakeholders from Mountain City to Sevier County.
Thank you. We also have additional representatives from the Department of Education. Joanne Runyon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joanne Runyon. I am the Senior Director of Student Supports.
Dr. Jordan.
Good afternoon, Jennifer Jordan. I'm Assistant Commissioner of Special Education and Student Supports.
Dr. Brown.
Christy Brown, Chief Academic Officer of the Department of Education.
Thank you. We also have individuals with significant experience working with English learners and educators. Ms. Evans.
Good afternoon. I'm Tracy Evans. I am Supervisor of Federal Programs at Arlington Community Schools.
Dr. Trujillo.
Good afternoon. Diego Trujillo, Director of our English as a New Language program for Hamilton County Schools. I also direct our Title III.
Dr. Sharan.
Mick Sharan, Director of Federal Programs with Manchester City Schools.
Ms. Holly. Ms. Turnbow,
I'm Megan Turnbow, ESL Coordinator for Rutherford County Schools.
Ms. Younger,
Hi, Jennifer Younger. I'm the ESL Supervisor for Sevier County.
Ms. Sakan,
Good afternoon. I'm Magda Sakan. I serve as the manager for our Office of Multilingual Learners with Memphis Shelby County Schools, and I'm also the current president of Tennessee TESOL.
Ms. Roshan,
Good afternoon. I'm Rachel Roshine, and I'm the Director of English Language Learners for Lead Public Schools.
Dr. Hopper,
Hi, I'm Hannah Hopper, and I'm the ESL Program Coordinator for Hamlin County Schools.
Ms. Testerman,
Hello, my name is Missy Testerman, and I was the ESL Specialist and Program Director at Rogersville City School. I'm also the 2024 National Teacher of the Year.
Dr. Garrett,
Good afternoon. I'm Tammy Garrett. I'm Director of Schools in Bedford County, and we have a high English learner population.
thank you. We also have members of our House of Representatives. Welcome, Representative Glenn. Representative Capley. Representative Eldridge. Representative White. Chairman Gardenhire. Senator Seal. Senator Pody.
Yes, I'm here. I've had trouble with my mic, but I think it's working now.
Perfect, welcome. Senator Roberts.
Thank you.
Senator Yarborough. And Senator Lamar. And please forgive me, Ms. Davis.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Davis, and I'm an English learner coach in Metro Nashville Public Schools.
Thank you so much. Again, we want to welcome everyone. Again, Chapter 419 of the Public Acts of 2025 really directs the Tennessee Department of Ed to convene this English Learner Education Working Group. And our group will engage educators, experts that you just heard from, and stakeholders to examine the best practices from other states and gather insights specific to Tennessee. Our charge today is to identify those evidence-based strategies that improve educational outcomes for English learners and provide meaningful support for teachers in the classroom. Ultimately, the work that we'll be doing will help inform the department's recommendations for strengthening English learner education statewide. In our last meeting, we looked at some of the things that Chapter 419 outlines, the specific strategies to strengthen those English learner instruction across the state. And those included expanding professional learning and creating EL endorsements for educators, as well as classroom-based best practices that we'll look at today, like scaffolding, collaboration, explicit vocabulary instruction. The bill also emphasizes the importance of using assessment data to guide instruction and engaging families and providing resources in their home language also on today's agenda. In looking at the national landscape last time, what we discovered was a blaring trend that ESL instructional services are often treated as a minor subsection of policy. It's often framed around compliance instead of student learning across many states. So meeting these requirements are so essential, but compliance should only be the floor and not the ceiling for us. The real goal of ESL programming is accelerating English development and really ensuring that our students succeed in the rigorous content that they have in their classrooms every day. And this happens through effective evidence-based instruction tailored to their needs. So what we're looking at today are ways to move beyond minimum compliance and focus on practices that connect policy to instruction, ensuring measurable growth in both language proficiency and academic achievement. And that will be evident through our student outcomes. So before we start talking about those strategies, let's go ahead and review some of our English learner outcomes. So note the students are expected on this chart that we're looking at. Students are expected to meet the same performance criteria as their English speaking peers. And they're in the general education classroom most of the time. The red line you see are the all students group, and the blue line are English learners with transitional students. So from 2022 to 2025, and unlike other post-COVID data, our ELs increased from 14.9% to 17.5%. That's a gain of nearly 3 percentage points. And while those absolute numbers we're looking at may seem modest, that trajectory is consistently upward with no dips, which tells us there's a clear sign of resilience and sustained improvement. Although English learners start from a lower baseline, their growth is steady and really mirrors that positive trajectory of the all student group. This shows that when provided access to high quality instruction and supports, English learners are staying on pace with broader student needs. We can look at the same thing in math. From 2022 to 2025, English learners are showing steady growth in math, keeping pace with statewide trends and continuing to accelerate. Again, a strong indicator that Tennessee's instructional shifts and supports are preparing multilingual learners for sustained success. So English learners in transitional 1 through 4 grew from 15.8% in 2022 to 22.8% in 2025. That's nearly a 7-point gain in just 3 years. So again, ELs are keeping up with their peers. While the all student group rose about 8.5 points, ELs rose that nearly 7 points, showing ELs and transition students are progressing almost at the same rate as the overall student population. And on this graph, you will see, while we've seen some gains in TCAP in the last few years, you may see a very slight decline in English language proficiency. However, we're testing students more now than ever. More new students are entering our Tennessee schools as the population grows. And here we see a K-12 English learning proficiency assessment rate over time. That English language proficiency assessment, or ELPA, that ELPA rate represents the percentage of English learners enrolled in the state who are demonstrating growth in their English language abilities by meeting growth standards as reflected by that assessment. The ELP growth line is declining, yes, but that doesn't mean our students aren't learning English. What we're seeing is that as students build strong proficiency and exit ESL, the remaining group has more ambitious growth targets to meet. And at the same time, English learners are showing steady gains in academic content area, which tells us our language growth is happening. It just doesn't always show up as progress in this measure. So in 2021, we tested 48,000 students. In 2025, we tested 84,000 students. So research shows that acquiring academic English proficiency can take anywhere from 5 to 7 years, and that's just proficiency, not fluency. During this time, English learners may initially perform below their peers as they develop both social and academic language. But once a English learner meets that rate, they become a transition student who is monitored for 4 years. Our research shows that acquiring academic English proficiency, again, can take that 5 to 7 years, but during this time, they may, again, initially perform below their peers. The data shows us that once students exit direct ESL services, they're demonstrating rapid academic growth. In fact, students in the transitional years, that 1 through 4 group, outperform the overall student population in ELA, scoring 38.3% proficient compared to the 37.6% of all students. This demonstrates in ELA that when provided strong language development supports, our English learners not only catch up, but often meet or exceed the achievement levels of their native English-speaking peers. We also see the same is true in mathematics. English learners in the first 4 years of transition actually outperform the statewide average, scoring 45.9% proficient compared to the 39.7% of all students. Again, demonstrating that when multilingual students are supported through strong language development programs, they are well prepared to thrive academically, even surpassing those native English-speaking peers in rigorous content areas like mathematics. So in our last meeting, we did have a chance to talk about some of those strategies. And the first one we talked about was English learner professional learning. So Tennessee has designed this layered system of professional learning to support teachers of English learners. At the state level, the department provides direct support through office hours and communities of practice, working groups for K-8, high school, and administrators. And all of these opportunities give our educators practical tools, that space to collaborate with each other. And it provides guidance on both instruction and assessment. The working groups, we have volunteer representatives from 45 LEAs from across the state, where they're discussing many of the same topics that we're discussing today, and also provide many self-paced training options in TDOE in literacy and assessment. In March of this year, we convened a group of 36 educators in person to create the Tennessee ELD and ELA standards crosswalk that align our state academic standards with our newly adopted ELD standards that we picked up last August. Tennessee also invests in professional collaboration at the highest level by connecting educators to statewide and national expertise. We have partnerships with Middle Tennessee State University through our ELL collaboratives and professional associations like 10 TESOL, bringing in current research and innovative practices and opportunities for our educators to connect with our colleagues across the state. Districts then have the opportunity to build on this with their own local trainings. Some of these are required by rule, our compliance, and some in response to their own specific LEA needs. This is flexible, and taken together, this layered approach ensures that professional learning for English learner education in Tennessee is comprehensive and coherent and quite sustainable. It addresses compliance, but also provides practical tools and guidance and adapts to local needs, connecting teachers to professional networks. So our discussion around strategies for improving outcomes in professional learning opportunities yielded some discussion notes. Based on your feedback, we heard that you're looking for practical, immediately applicable, and professional learning that's directly tied to classroom practice rather than compliance. We also saw that there's a strong call for joint participation between not just the ESL teacher, but also the general education teacher to bridge those instructional silos. We heard you tell us that teachers value resources that model effective Tier 1 instruction for English learners and are calling for things like video libraries or exemplar lessons. Many of you have cited a lack of time for sustained professional learning, but not a lack of interest. You want to know more about your how to train your teachers to do best practices for English learners. And then we've seen some successful examples. You've highlighted the acceleration for all professional learning that the department provides, and we'll talk about that more just a little bit later. And then recommendations you've given are on continued and expanded local partnerships with our EPPs for in-person co-delivered professional development, EPPs being those educator providers, those folks that are training our teachers. So professional learning builds upon the knowledge of our educators, what our practitioners already are bringing to the classroom. But we also talked about last time those folks as we look at EL endorsements for licensed educators. And we looked at the national landscape. When we compare Tennessee's ESL endorsement pathways to those in our surrounding states, we saw that our options are generally in line or even a little more flexible. Many of our neighboring states rely solely on a praxis or require both coursework and a praxis test. Tennessee, by contrast, offers multiple pathways, which provides educators with more opportunities to earn the endorsement and helps us respond more effectively to teacher shortages and local needs. So based on your feedback, we had some discussion notes. We heard that teachers appreciate those flexible pathways doing either the praxis or coursework, but there is a concern that having just a praxis-only assessment may dilute preparation quality. Partnerships with our EPPs and Grow Your Own programs have increased recruitment, but still need state-level support to sustain funding. Educators are looking for incentives or tuition coverage for endorsement coursework or those praxis fees. And there were recommendations to amend licensure policy to require more coursework in language acquisition for all initial teacher candidates, not just ESL teachers. So as we know, there are some effective practices already occurring, and you've given us our feedback about those things that we've discussed in our last meeting. As our programs and as our students continue to exit at a rate equal to the national level of about 9 to 10% per year and continue to score in parity or above their English-speaking peers, I want us to take a look today and have some discussion about some of those practices to look for additional ways to support student outcomes. I want to take just a minute to kind of clarify when we're talking about English learner instruction, we need to recognize that it has two equally critical parts. The first is the mandated ESL service time, and this is where English learners receive intensive language instruction. This is where they build proficiency explicitly in speaking, writing, reading, and listening. And this is guided by Tennessee's English language development standards and also outlined in State Board of Education rule. The second bucket is rigorous content instruction, and this is which happens in the general content classroom. Here, the focus is on making sure English learners have access to and can engage with grade level academic standards alongside their peers. This is where students are spending a majority of their time each day. And while the focus of EL instruction had traditionally leaned to focus on ESL service time, an emphasis has to be made on academic content classrooms and even the integration of the two. These two components really serve different purposes, but they're designed to work together. Language instruction in the ESL classroom strengthens the skills students need to use English effectively, while the content instruction ensures that they're not left behind in core subjects. Together, they move toward the same goal. We want English learners to achieve both language growth and academic success. And today we'll be talking about educators in both of those settings. There are different ESL service models that districts can use to deliver intensive English language instruction. All of these models are grounded in second language acquisition principles and supported by research. And all of them include common scaffolds and supports for English learners. You'll see 5 models highlighted here that are listed as permissible in State Board of Education rule, but each model takes a slightly different approach. However, the goal is still the same. We want to help students develop English proficiency while accessing rigorous academic content. This slide shows the 4 approved ESL delivery models for that intensive English language instruction. We have pull-out and scheduled ELD courses. Both provide that direct, structured language support led by an ESL teacher and are generally outside of the general content classroom. Co-teaching really brings together the ESL teacher inside the general content classroom to plan, deliver, and assess instruction alongside that content teacher. And finally, for our virtual schools, virtual instruction allows ESL teachers to deliver services online in scheduled session. Each of these models is designed to meet EL's individual language needs while ensuring access to that grade level content. But when we talk about rigorous content instruction outside of that mandated ESL service time, this is important because this is where ELs again spend the majority of their time throughout the day. Our state has developed an initiative, Acceleration for All, and this is Tennessee's statewide initiative that supports to strengthen rigorous content instruction in the content classroom. It was launched in January of 2025, so just this year. And it is a major support. It highlights Tennessee Instructional Practice Guide. This guide is a tool that defines what high quality standards aligned instruction looks like for all students across core content areas and supports effective teaching and learning. And this initiative also added Core Action 4 to the Instructional Practice Guide, which ensures high quality instructional materials are accessible for all students. The initiative invests in professional learning for leaders and educators, and it brings the ESL team and the content team together while emphasizing the use of student work and data to individualize scaffolds and supports, exactly what we'll be talking about today. Again, the goal is very clear. Every student, including English learners, should have access to grade level content. So as we think about those two things, ESL service and intensive language proficiency in the ESL classroom and in the content classroom, we're going to open up the floor for questions and discussion to talk about what data are we seeing that intensive ESL instruction is accelerating English language and content proficiency, and how are our general education teachers successfully embedding scaffolds so that our ELs can participate in grade level learning. And finally, are content teachers receiving enough training and coaching to confidently apply scaffolding strategies? To guide this part of our session, we'll be using these questions as prompts for discussion. You can talk about this or other scaffolds, and we invite you to share your thoughts or your questions or even your comments by simply using that raise hand button. When you're called on, you'll have the floor for up to 2 minutes so that everyone has a chance to contribute. These questions, again, are meant to spark conversation and help us think collectively about how professional learning supports educators of English learners across different contexts. So feel free to raise your hand now to answer or ask or comment on these questions.
Mr. Sharan.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to speak first of all to the the certification process. I think there's value in that in the training preparation, but I will tell you there's value in having a classroom teacher who is you know, has some experience with the high quality materials that can come into an EL role and immediately provide those opportunities within that EL classroom. So that's been a benefit for us, and I think that that's something that we definitely need to continue to look at. As far as these question goes, the first one, the third one specifically speaks to me. Are content teachers receiving enough training? And the answer is no. And the good news is that a lot of people are having conversations as to what that's going to look like. In my district in particular, we're partnering with our special ed department to figure out how we can combine those conversations so that we can benefit all those students in Tier 1. So I mean, ideas on how to get that training and that coaching built in and have more accessibility towards it would be great. I think that's the area that we're really going to focus on in this district.
Thank you.
Ms. Brown?
Pulling together both ways. Rating English language content proficiency, so I think we're kind of struggling with that. How do we go faster? Is kind of what that looks like, and we certainly want to. We'd like to see, or my teachers have asked for a better correlation. We've had good ELPA 21 standards training, and of course we've had training on how to give the test. They're asking for a correlation between the standards and the test so that we can prepare the students better for the tasks that are actually on the test.
Miss Alice, we missed the first part of that conversation, of your statement. Do you mind repeating that one more time?
Not sure. Well, I guess I started with saying that we had a better test out rate from last year's ELPA 21. That's probably it. And what we were sort of analyzing that, and we're wondering if there's a better correlation between the ELPA standards and the Tennessee state standards, so that the students were better supported in both areas.
Thank you.
Ms. Roshan?
To answer the first question about our data, we've noticed that our sheltered instruction classes are performing lower than our co-taught sections because, and this is a theory that we have, is that there's no one to bring our EL students up. So when there's crickets, the teachers can only give so many back pocket questions to get the kids there, but they're not learning from other peers who are at a higher level from them. So when we're pairing turn and talks with different proficiency levels for speaking, you can only pair certain students up when they can only help each other so much. So we have seen our higher test scores in our district assessments for in our co-taught classes because they're learning from each other. And then for number 2, for are they successfully prepared? I would say yes. I think one of the things that our teachers are asking for is training and coaching on how to apply scaffolds for our duly identified students. So our students who have X-Ed and EL. I have co-teachers coming to me, well, this person has Scribe, but I'm also providing EL services. And then the Gen Ed teacher doesn't have enough training to provide that Scribe accommodation. And so where does that fit in? And then number 3, our co-teaching. We piloted co-teaching as a mentoring program at one of our schools where we looked at the data and we paired up our really strong co-teachers with some of our new teachers who are either new to teaching or new to the curriculum. And we've seen those teachers grow a lot more. So we're going to continue that practice in the next year. And then also many of our schools partnered with Ignite for the co-teaching for X-Ed. And that would be super helpful. There's a lot of great tools there, like their lab notebook and things like that I think we can bring into the EL world as well.
Thank you.
Ms. Younger?
Well, I was just going to address the second question. So how are our teachers successfully, or Gen Ed teachers successfully embedding those scaffolds? Probably about 2 years ago, we implemented the Seidlitz training, 7 steps to a language-rich classroom. And so we brought in Seidlitz to initiate that training. But with all of our PLCs, all of our training that our coaches do, whether it's our math coach or our ELA coach or our ESL coach, we still capitalize on those 7 steps with our gen ed teachers. Now it's a work in progress. We are constantly getting gen ed teachers that are always asking for those scaffolding strategies. Another thing that we're doing with our co-teaching, this was something new we implemented last year and we are off to a slow start. We are still continuing that. So with our co-teaching, our hopes, and when I say my hope is as the ESL supervisor, my hope is that with those ESL teachers co-teaching with our gen ed teachers, that's the hope, is that our gen ed teachers are seeing those scaffolding strategies in place. So I don't know how well it's working on a day-to-day basis, but that's the hope, that our gen ed teachers are seeing that through the co-teaching, through our PLCs, and what our coaches are doing on a daily basis with the 7 steps training. So that's what I'm hoping is taking place. And then we also talked about that through our ELPA training as well, as those scaffolding strategies that, you know, teachers can be embedding every day with our EL students.
Thank you.
Dr. Garrett.
Thank you very much. I have a question or suggestion. Rachel brought up a great point, and I was going to ask this question, and she kind of pointed it out. Do we have statewide data on research for the different models? I think as a director of schools, I think the other directors would love to be able to see that at the state level, which models for which groups of kids, as research show, is most effective. And then another thing to think about with the last question, are content teachers receiving enough training and coaching to confidently apply scaffolding? Just I request that we scaffold for the teachers as well, because I know with my district, we have lots and lots of job embedded teachers that may be not ready for the training. I mean, they're learning how to teach. And so could we think about some different scaffolds for those kinds of teachers, because we have a large number of those, and we have to look at training differently than ever before, because you have this traditional teachers that went through a regular college program, and you have a large number who did not, that were having to do on the job training. So just a suggestion in the PD for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Trujillo.
From the top down, really thinking about how we're impacting all folks that are in the mix of building the lens and supports of teachers. So we're really working to partner with coaches, right, to demonstrate some of that. When we think about our new teacher academies and having an impact there, really thinking about then our ESL teams being part of those larger initiatives, so that we start to build momentum and capacity. Many districts would share that in terms of like district teams, they're small but mighty, right? So we need to be able to leverage as much as we can in terms of those folks in the mix doing that work. So I'd say it's a work in progress, but we're making progress within those frameworks.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowyer.
Yes, I just want to speak briefly to the content teachers receiving training. Some of our schools have had the opportunities to really loop in both your ESL coaches and academic coaches or content coaches, where they're working together to coach teachers. And I think that that's a really powerful thing, because so often in this work with special populations, we work in silos, right? And sometimes we can silo ourselves to EL world or special education world or ELA or math. And so where I've seen some pretty significant gains is those academic coaches and ESL coaches coming together to then kind of backwards plan for teachers to really loop in like the right kinds of scaffolds, because good teaching is good teaching. A lot of these strategies apply to all learners, right? And so I think that that was something that I wanted to shout out for some of our schools, really just the collaboration piece.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you so much for your feedback. We are recording this information as we get ready to prepare this report. And as we consider effective instruction scaffolds for our English learners, I think it's important to move beyond just viewing our individual strategies in isolation. Things like collaborative learning, explicit vocabulary instruction, and regular assessments with feedback are often discussed separately, but we know in practice they are most powerful when used together. When we integrate them, these three practices inform our instruction. Collaborative learning provides that context for authentic language use and peer interaction. Explicit vocabulary instruction supplies the linguistic content the students need to fully engage in those interactions. And our ongoing assessment and feedback ensures that our instruction remains responsive to our students' needs, allowing our educators to monitor progress, identify needs, and make intentional adjustments. So let's talk about collaborative learning for just a second. When English learners work in groups or alongside their proficient English speaker peers, they're not just completing a task, they're practicing language. They're trying out new forms. They're building their social confidence. So collaborative learning is a powerful tool for English learners because it gives them authentic opportunities to use their language with their peers. It also allows students at different proficiency levels to enter the conversation. It supports their negotiation of meaning, and it builds comprehension through interaction. So this connects directly to the instructional practice guide, Core Action 3, that our teachers know about, that our teachers are using. And it emphasizes that meaningful student engagement in rigorous tasks is something that is super beneficial for our students. It's not a new concept for most general education teachers. And for that collaboration to be meaningful, our students need the words and the structures to participate fully. And that's where explicit vocabulary instruction comes in. Vocabulary instruction equips students with the language tools they need to contribute to their discussions, to ask their questions, and to engage in content learning. Academic vocabulary in particular is a strong predictor of content success, so making it visible and intentional is so crucial. By teaching both key terms and strategies for learning new words, we not only support today's lesson, but we are also building long-term independence as students internalize those words. And this directly ties to the instructional practice guide, Core Action 2, C subset in particular, which emphasizes attending to words, phrases, and sentences within the text. And assessment and feedback are not separate from instruction. They're a part of that. So Core Action 3E emphasizes that teachers should check for understanding throughout the lesson and adapt based on what they see, while students refine their work in progress and in response to that feedback. We can also look at Core Action 4B. It builds on this by reminding us that supports have to be grounded in recent and relevant learning. And they should be temporary supports, used only when needed and then intentionally faded. Core Action 4 summarizes and ties it all together. We know that when scaffolds are data-driven, they lead to ownership and success with grade level tasks. And for our English learners, this means that assessment is not just about measuring progress, getting a score, but it's really about shaping the supports that help English learners access and succeed in rigorous instruction. So as we think about those three areas of collaborative learning, explicit vocabulary instruction, and assessment and feedback, I want us to guide our conversation with these questions. How are collaborative learning, vocabulary instruction, and assessment currently being implemented in our classrooms? And where are there opportunities to really strengthen their integration so that they function as cohesive cycle rather than just standalone practices? What professional learning or coaching do our teachers need to effectively balance collaboration, vocabulary, and assessment practices in their daily instruction? And how are we currently using assessment data to inform not only language instruction, but also our content classroom instruction? And what adjustments could be made to ensure that feedback cycles are timely and actionable? So we'll open up the floor again. Please raise your hand if you'd like to make a comment, ask a question, or bring up another topic about these 3 areas.
Ms. Turnbull.
We've really been focusing the last few years of having more language type data points than just our one assessment per year. You know, ELPA 21, WIDA, they are a great assessment. It's a formal way to have that one actionable data point annually. But we also know that's given in February or March, get results at the end of the year, and then it's August. You know, months of language development have gone by before we start taking actionable steps in August with their scheduling and with instruction. So we have really been focused in trying to take a cue from our gen ed folks of having regular data points to help us kind of see where our students are. If we're only doing that one per year, we really aren't having timely data to make decisions. Perhaps a student needs to move up a grade, or in a group. You know, if we're leveling our groups, maybe they need to move up. Maybe their writing score has held them back every single year from exiting, and every 2 weeks, maybe we need to be seeing some writing samples and just looking at student work. So I feel like we are finally getting some traction for that to be a regular part of the ESL program and talking about data. And I do think each year we've gotten better, and each year we have seen more students exit rather than getting stuck at that level 3 and staying a level 3 for year after year after year. So I'm happy to see that we're really digging deeper into student work and making that another data point beyond just the one per year.
Thank you, Ms. Turnbull. Ms. Roshan.
I agree. I think that some type of assessment that ELPA, I know WIDA had the WIDA model, and I know ELPA said something about them coming out with one at last year's TNTSOL conference, but like somewhere where we can use an ELPA based test and progress monitor our students would be very helpful, because by the time we get the data in August, we have the summer slide. And so we have that. And then we're not going to get another data point until the end of the school year. And so I would like to see something that we could do at the beginning of the school year that is ELPA based, so we know that that data point is valid and is predicting what they could be getting on the summative assessment. And then we can make action steps and better goals for our ILPs as well based upon that information.
Thank you.
Mr. Winery.
I just want to echo exactly what Megan and Rachel just expressed. So I promise there's nothing new in my comments here, but It is, in fact, the same thing that we've noticed is that when we assess our students in the spring, it's a good 5 months later when they come back to school, that data point is already pretty stale. And that we can't take any further action on things until the next data point, which goes into the next school year. As Rachel just mentioned, with the previous standards and assessment platform that we used, there was the option to purchase a formative assessment product through WIDA. And ELPA 21 does not develop something like that. So it would be very valuable, I think, for the state to look into something, even if it's something that they can just have a selection that districts would be able to purchase from. Because what we're doing now is all very singular in our district. Each teacher creates assessments and works with their students, which is fine, but they always create those assessments with their particular students in mind, knowing what their capabilities are. So everything is geared towards that. We don't even have a district-wide way yet of saying all third graders in ESL try this, do this. All 10th graders do this, that kind of a thing. So just to echo again what they said and emphasize, it would be great to have other ways to have formative assessments that are structured along the standards and tasks that would be expected on the formal assessment.
Thank you.
Ms. Duncan.
I wanted to speak a little to just kind of the integration of, you said vocabulary instruction and assessment and opportunities to strengthen it so that it's kind of more of a cohesion or a cohesive cycle. I think it's really important for us to identify what these best instructional practices are. And in our district, we really have kind of latched onto the SIOP model of instructional practices as kind of what the gold standard is for ESL instruction. But it gets really confusing when there's lots of different ways of looking at these best practices. And so one thing we've tried to do is connect those practices to the team rubric. We've also done some work in the past on connecting those practices to the IPG. But I think just in terms of cohesion, if there were kind of an agreed upon model of instructional practices, I think that would help just kind of align some of these different ways of looking at instruction, you know, across districts and across the state, if that were ever possible.
Thank you.
Ms. Ford.
I just wanted to piggyback on that. I've noticed where we have the test in February, we don't get the results back until right after the summer. In our county, what we've been trying to do is be more proactive and engage in our data team meetings and meet with all of our schools teams as much as possible whenever they have the opportunity to slide in. My district's very small. I have the same little pod of kids. They've been with me for the last 6 years. So I mainly wanted to speak on the collaborative learning. I've noticed just being able to move with them and their teacher teams, having that collaborative, not only with our students, but as a team with our teachers and our team at the district level. We've been able to bridge and know all the standards and be able to say, hey, you remember when we did this with your teacher in this grade level, and be able to pull those references. And then the students also seeing us engaging with them and their peers are more likely to want to jump in there and also be able to assist their ELs friends. And that friendship moves through, and our kids show a lot of growth and more confidence in their learning abilities because of that collaborative learning. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Fuller, Dr. Fuller.
Hi. I just want to comment a little bit about some of the inclusive practices that we've had in place going back and forth between our ESL teachers and our elementary teachers. And particularly, we've provided our EL teachers Orton Gilliam training to go along with the same training that our elementary reading teachers are have received also, they've emphasized vocabulary, and we use the content-based instruction strategy. And it was part of that, teachers, they share their tier 3 vocabulary with the ESL teachers so that in the ESL classroom, they can again go back and reinforce that vocabulary. We have seen incredible gains with our 3rd grade reading scores overall with all the students, our Ls, and then our ELPA 21. There was a huge spike in students exiting, and I just see a correlation between that early emphasis on reading, and it just seems seamless on some of the things like phonics instruction between the regular classroom and the ESL classroom.
Thank you.
Miss Hopper, Dr. Hopper.
I just wanted to kind of connect to what Ted was saying, and he kind of had similar thoughts that I was thinking. I'm just really lifting up those early literacy practices, the high leverage practices, collaborating with content education teachers and EL teachers so that they have that that working knowledge together. And I think that when we can build educators' knowledge around early literacy practices, that systematic instruction, things of that nature, it just really supports students. And so when we're thinking about, the listening, reading, speaking, writing, we often really see that students are struggling the most with the reading area long term. So we really putting the emphasis on that, on the early literacy, providing strong instruction for students early on so that they can continue to experience success. And I love his thoughts around the practices that they've used. And we're really focusing on that too, making sure that educators have the tools and the strategies and the knowledge to be able to support students. So I just wanted to lift that up too.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments that you'd like to make? Well, I have 5 o'clock. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break to let you pause for just a second. After thinking through all of this information, you have a chance to digest that. We'll come back at 5:05 and begin talking about strategies for improving students through family engagement. So we'll see you at 5:05 or 4:05 Central Time. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that short break gave you a moment to recharge. So let's pick right back up where we left off and bring that same kind of energy back after that break. So I'd like to talk about our last point, strategies for improving outcomes for EL students and assisting EL teachers through family involvement in ESL instruction and what that looks like. So research has consistently showed that when families are engaged, students achieve more academically and develop stronger language and literacy skills. So family involvement is one of the strongest predictors of academic achievement for any student, but it's sometimes more difficult when families don't speak English. So effective engagement means moving past that one-way communication, those sending just the newsletters or just a phone call, to creating a more reciprocal partnership where families are partners in the decision-making and co-creators of the learning supports that our schools offer and advocates for their children. So several of our working group members have had success in engaging families in their communities. I can't wait to hear more from you. But right now we have Megan Turnbow from Rutherford County. She's our working group member, and we've invited her to share about what she's been seeing and doing in Rutherford County. So welcome, Megan.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to share about the family engagement in Rutherford County. While this is an area we want to grow because we are seeing the benefits, but we still have areas to grow, but we are proud of the initiatives we have now. And I hope sharing these ideas will maybe spark an idea for your school district. The family engagement initiatives that I will highlight this afternoon are ESL parent classes, community partnerships, district family liaisons, and ESL family nights. First, I want to mention the ESL parent classes we offer. We have 3 locations for ESL parent classes that meet twice a week. We pay our ESL teachers from Title III funds to work these additional hours. Some of the parents even bring their children, so it is a family event. We see our students helping their parents with their English, which is pretty cool. And we hope that the ESL parent classes attended will motivate the parents to work more on their English beyond the classes. And this, of course, as you know, will directly help students. These photos here feature an end of the year party from one of our ESL parent classes on the left, and then one of our classes in action on the right. The second initiative I want to highlight is a community partnership. We do not have the ESL teacher capacity to host as many ESL parent classes as we need and as we would like to. Our teachers already work a full day. They have families to go home to. So to fill in that gap of not having enough ESL parent classes, we partner with Working Mission in Rutherford County that offers several additional locations in our district to attend free ESL classes. We advertise these flyers that are pictured here on the slide to our families, and we use some of our Title III funds to purchase the class curriculum. We recognize that we cannot reach all of our families alone, so we're super thankful that this partnership with Working Mission developed in our community. We have district family liaisons as another family engagement tool in Rutherford County. We have 4 district family liaisons. We have 2 that speak Spanish and 2 who speak Arabic. They take care of all the district translations like academic calendars, student handbooks, signs around the schools, early dismissal calls. That's just to name a very few things that they do of the huge scope. They also spend a significant amount of time helping families register for the district, which happens all year long with students moving in and out. And even though all of our registration forms are translated in Spanish and Arabic, registering for school is a daunting task. And in the left photo, you'll see that's our longest tenured family liaison, Miss Clara, at her desk. She's multitasking from taking calls from families, responding to emails from schools who need help with translation, and translating a new district form. And then on the right, you see one of our family liaisons translating for a Motlow State Community College representative at a packed house for an ESL college night that the district hosted. We would not be able to effectively operate as a district without our 4 family liaisons. And then finally, at the school level, our ESL departments host ESL family nights to create more family engagement. At the district level, we help them prepare for these nights when needed by providing information to share and providing translators, but many times the schools can take these family nights and run with it. There were years that we hosted district ESL family nights and would group together schools, but we have really shifted to encouraging these to happen at each individual school. It really makes a difference for the families to be in their students' building and to talk to teachers and administrators who truly know their students. One point I want to make about ESL family nights is that it doesn't replace the need to make all family nights accessible to our families and the students. An ESL family night would just be an addition. But I think an important piece to remember is that all open houses, fall fest, STEM nights, etc., should be an event that families who speak another language besides English can attend and feel welcome.
Thank you, Megan. As we think about family and community engagement, again, I want to open up the floor for you to tell me about ways that you do it in your district and for us to think about these questions. How do we move beyond one-way communication? As Megan was just talking about, we invite our families in. What are you doing? And how can you create structures where EL families actively influence school and district decisions? How are we building the knowledge and confidence of our English learner families to navigate the school system and to support language and literacy at home? And then how are we inviting families to share their perspectives, not just receiving the information? So I'd love, again, for you to raise your hand and share out what you're doing in your district, ask questions, or also bring up any comments you'd like. This is a time for you to show out.
Miss Sakan.
Hello. So I did want to share some of the things that we're doing. Some of them are similar. Like the ESL family nights, we require 1 per semester for every school. And one thing that we've done to make that more accessible for our teachers is we created like just a base, like kind of template, get you started. And then our office offers to come and co-present or help lead alongside the ESL teachers or whoever at that school is kind of leading and organizing that family night. Just so that people feel confident, especially if they're new to the field, to do that. We have our ESL parent classes, our ESL classes as well. I love that you all invite families and make that family friendly. I know that that's a barrier we've experienced, that childcare barrier in our school district. It's something we've talked about a lot, and I just really loved that. So thank you for sharing that. Another thing that we've started, and it's building momentum, but it's taken a while to start, is we have what we call our Parent Advisory Council. That's Multilingual Parent Advisory Council. And so we invite our families to come and just share with us and invite other families to come. So we see more and more coming each time, and we try to vary the times that we have them so we get attendance, but we're slowly building kind of this group of involved parents, and a lot of them just will bring their friends for like one-off, like this is going to be an opportunity, and we know that there's going to be interpretation available. So if you have an issue that's going on with your student and you're afraid or intimidated to approach the school about it, we'll just get parents that come and are like, my kid's having this problem, how can you help us? But just creating that space for them and then following through with helping them solve the problems, which I know seems really like basic, but I see a lot, I guess, in our large district, that the problems get brought to the on the district level, but they don't always get resolved. They kind of pass our families around. So we just try to be like a central hub for, we say within our department, like if they call us, we're going to help them. Even if it's someone else's job to help them, if they call us, we're going to help them. I think that's been helpful. I would love to see on our district level just more opportunities to provide those educational specific resources to our family as families in multiple languages, and have like culturally sensitive ways to, or culturally informed ways that we are approaching sharing that information with them. I know we have something called Families Connect, and that is at some schools. And so that's run by our bilingual mentors, and they do like a very culturally aware navigation of the US school system for new families. That's like a year-long course that's been really successful, but I think it's only in a few schools, so we'd love to see that expand. One of the things as far as sharing resources is I would love to be able, when our duly identified students have come up a few times, and it's a challenge that I'm personally kind of seeing, is helping them navigate both our exceptional ed and duly identified, those various systems. So I'd love to just see more cross collaboration around building out resources for families that have students that have the specific needs, especially in terms, this goes back to assessment, particularly in terms of assessment and where, if students are being evaluated for specific services, L1 or first language resources or assessment can be used. I don't know if that makes sense, but we get a lot of questions around that and requests around that, and would love to see more resources for that. All right, I feel like I'm rambling now. Thank you.
Thank you, Magda.
Miss Davis.
Good afternoon. I wanted to share some of the stakeholder partnerships that we have built in MMPS. We do a lot of the other things that we've heard already, but one partnership that we're really proud of is with Conexion Americas. We offer parents as partners, and so Conexion comes into different school buildings and just builds not only just how to navigate the school system, but literacy skills, technology literacy skills as well. We just had our graduation at one of our schools where the parents have now been equipped to help be leaders in their community. And then another partnership we have is with our extended learning department. We've offered EL Reading Club, I want to say for about 10 years now at least. And so we have expanded to about 20 of our schools where students are able to have a hot meal, and then our teachers engage in building foundational skills and literacy skills around our curriculum, which is a knowledge building curriculum, as well as supporting students in their language development and preparing for ELPA 21. What's really great about that program is it's a lot of our content teachers and not our EL teachers. So just being able to build those teachers' capacities around high quality EL instruction. We also have our schools engage in some sort of family engagement event once per semester to bring parents in help equip them and build their capacity around supporting literacy at home, even in their native language. So sometimes that is hosting an EL family night to just teach them all about what is ELPA 21, how can you support your students at home. It might be more literacy focused, where it's just focusing on, here are some ways to support literacy development. Sometimes it's just showcasing what students have learned. Some schools will put on some sort of performance. And so that's just something that has really helped bring in our families in schools in order to just help increase that literacy development and partnership at home.
Anyone else?
Dr. Garrett.
I would like to share one of the things that we have been successful with. Two things. One, we have a Hispanic podcast here. So we really work hard to try to make sure that we put me on there, just like I do the local radio station or the news outlets, that we put him on it. That has really helped us. So we have like monthly sessions. He's invited to everything that we have, press releases he gets, and he is just almost like a member of our communications team now. So that's been very successful for us. So I encourage you not to forget those if you have those in your community, of putting that with your communications director and say, can you make sure that we always send things to them as well? And then the other thing I think that's critical to academics is the whole child. And we really tried to make sure that we have recruited through Project RAISE and through a lot of HBCUs and other EPP partners. We even went into Alabama to get counselors and social workers who are Spanish speaking, and really all that represent all of our families, because if their mental health is not met and their basic needs are not met, they have a hard time learning. So that's one of the things we've made an effort to do, is make sure our social workers, school-based therapists, that we have access to all languages.
Thank you. Mr. Trujillo.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to just speak to that second bullet there of building the knowledge and confidence of EL families. Wanted to share that I think it starts with that building sense of belonging, right? And that's something as just as simple as signage. The environment is the school culturally welcoming, responsive from language, and being able to provide some of that information to families readily. So we, of course, leverage our interpreters. We translate all documents in multiple languages. We are offering our ESL parent classes. But what I want to share also is that what we do here with HCS, Hamilton County Schools, is we have an international welcome center that really leverages the community partnerships and supports for families, and also helps families navigate some of the barriers that are transpiring. The other piece is our person that navigates this also is kind of that linchpin for connecting with schools to ensure that we can, resource and ensure that we can connect to community resources to ensure families are supported in their particular needs.
Thank you. Any other folks? All right, thank you so much for your thoughtful discussion. And I want to thank you for the time you've given to this work today. As we close, I'd like to open the floor for any final recommendation or reflections you'd like to see captured in our report about this group. So think about what stood out in our conversation, any themes or needs or next steps that you think should be highlighted. Your feedback is going to help us ensure that the final report truly represents this group's perspective and the work that we've done together. So if you remember in recap, last session, we examined the national landscape and Tennessee's practices and data. Last time, we also focused on how to get qualified teachers into our classrooms. There's a national shortage of new ESL teachers, and we've heard about how Tennessee is offering multiple options for the ESL endorsement. But we also didn't just address getting more teachers. We talked about the ongoing professional learning necessary for all teachers, new and old, of English learners. So today, we looked at the strategies that help them stay effective once they're here. And we've looked at a current framework of the IPG. We've covered several effective strategies that support success for English learners, like scaffolding and collaborative learning, vocabulary acquisition, and using data to drive instructional best practices. And together we can see what you see on the screen, that ongoing professional learning for all educators, plus addressing the teacher shortage in ESL, plus strong family engagement equals the key levers that really lead to improved outcomes for our English learners. So as we reflect, I'd like to invite you to share your recommendations. Let's take just a few moments for you to share your final thoughts. How can we continue to address the ESL teacher shortage? What professional learning opportunities would most benefit EL educators? What are the next steps that we can take to build stronger family engagement, partnerships across the state? As we gather these recommendations, the department is going to compile them into a draft report. And I'd like to open up the floor to you now to share those things. Final thoughts.
Ms. Khan.
Yes, I had a question. Oh, my lights just went off. I'm sorry. So my question was, I know that after the last meeting, we were able, and you may have already spoken to this, but we were able to complete a survey and kind of put some of our thoughts in writing. And I was curious if that would be an option for any of the discussion questions we had today. You know, some of us just, there were lots of things that I was thinking after we had already passed the subject. My think time was a little slow, and I would just love the opportunity, you know, to reflect more on these questions and share final thoughts that way.
Thank you for asking, Magda. Yeah, we're going to talk about next steps, but there will be one more round of outreach to follow this meeting. We know there's a lot of information, and sometimes you just need a minute or two to digest before you provide your feedback. There will be an opportunity for you to share that, and we'll combine all of your feedback for that report. Thanks for asking. Any other final thoughts or recommendations based on what we've talked about?
Mr. Winery.
Hi there. Last time, and I believe, last time again, this time you did share what surrounding states have for their ESL teacher preparation, and how similar, dissimilar Tennessee is compared with those. I'd be really curious, not only in that realm immediately surrounding us, but across the nation, what do states have in place that they can encourage districts to do something in addition to whatever their state requirement is for endorsement? For example, in Tennessee now, if we can do praxis only for an ESL endorsement, what are some other successful models to say that's acceptable, that gets you the endorsement on your license, but what are other places doing that are successfully building up their teachers? I'd like to see something along those lines, if that's possible.
Thank you for that suggestion. Final thoughts? Thank you so much again for your engagement today. One more round of outreach, as I said, will follow this meeting, and then the department's going to combine all of your feedback together into a final report for stakeholders. Those recommendations from this group is going to help shape statewide priorities for supporting English learners. I hope it's given you some things to think about implementing in your own district or in your own work stream, particularly in areas like teacher recruitment, professional learning, and family engagement. I hope you have a wonderful day. We're going to give you some time back. We will include the survey to you in the next few days. Thank you so much.